There's been a management shakeup at Toledo Solar following a controversy and a lawsuit from solar panels that were installed at the governor's mansion in Ohio. Republican states and districts are receiving about 80% of all of the capital investment that is the result of the Inflation Reduction Act, even though every single Republican in Congress voted against that act when it was passed last year. And about 86% of all new energy generation on the grid in the first half of 2023 has come from renewable energy. I'm Jay Warmke with Blue Rock Station, and this is the news from the solar industry for the week of September 3rd. All right, so there is a new president, there's a new secretary, a new treasurer, a new chairman of the board at Toledo Solar. And the reason for this is actually, well, to back up just a little bit, the governor's mansion received solar panels back in 2004 that were installed by Green Energy Ohio. And at that time, they used First Solar panels. Well, these panels were being replaced in 2022, and they were going to be replaced with Toledo Solar panels, a competitor of First Solar. Well, a representative from First Solar went to the mansion to gather up all of the old panels that were to be recycled. Anyway, he or she discovered that those panels that were recently installed, even though they were labeled as Toledo Solar panels, were actually, the serial numbers were changed, and to represent they were made in the United States, they were actually First Solar panels that were being installed that had been manufactured in Malaysia. So that resulted in a bit of an investigation and a lawsuit, and now a shakeup at First Solar. We still don't know what the result of that lawsuit will be, but it doesn't look good. A report from the Energy Information Administration of the U.S. government shows that the energy that was installed on the grid during the first half of 2023, of that, about 86% is from renewable sources. Now, these renewable sources, solar is the dominant one. 52% of all of the new power put on the grid is from solar, about 13% from wind, and then 17% from battery storage capability. Only about 14% of the new power on the grid comes from fossil fuels, and that is exclusively natural gas, no coal or any other fossil fuel source added to the grid. Now, there is also a significant amount of power generation that's being retired. All of that generation that's being retired is fossil fuel. This diagram demonstrates that 56.1 gigawatts is being added to the grid, while 14.5 gigawatts is being retired. Of the retired generating capacity, 62% of that is coal and 36% natural gas. A study by industry group Climate Power found that about 80% of all of the investment that's going into clean energy as a result of the Inflation Reduction Act is going to Republican-held states and congressional districts. For example, in the state of Tennessee, over the last 12 months, they've received about $7 billion in clean energy investment into that state, which represents about 80% of all of the capital investment that the state received. So very significant portion of their capital investment. This capital investment was focused on electric vehicles, also on battery storage systems, the manufacturing of battery, as well as the capacity increase, and solar. This investment is said to have created about 5,600 new jobs during the 12 months. And since 2019, Tennessee has seen about $15 billion in clean energy invested into that state, creating about 11,000 new jobs. An analysis by S&P Global Commodities Insights say that about 75% of power will be generated by renewable energy by the year 2042, and that's essentially baked into the system. It's essentially locked in despite lower fossil fuel prices. They did say that in order to reach 90% penetration of renewable, we're going to have to see a lot of investment in things like long-term storage, carbon capture, advanced nuclear, and hydrogen. These systems are deemed to be unlikely because of persistently low fossil fuel prices. Now, the Biden administration has set goals of 80% from renewable by 2030 and 100% by 2035, which appear unlikely under this projection. A ruling in mid-August by the U.S. Department of Commerce found that, in fact, the moving of solar panel manufacturing from China to Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Cambodia were, in fact, a not too subtle way to try and avoid the tariffs imposed on Chinese manufacturing. So what is anticipated is that because of this, we will see significant tariffs on products imported from those nations starting in 2024. The Biden administration put a 2-year moratorium on those tariffs as this was being investigated. A little bit of history on this. In 2012, China, which had made a point of trying to essentially capture the solar panel manufacturing industry, was found by the U.S. to be dumping panels illegally into the United States. Tariffs were imposed in 2018. In 2022, the Biden administration passed the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. They were finding that many of these products were being produced by forced labor. So that further reduced the amount of input and from the entirely dominated Chinese marketplace. Now, a lot of these panels then that were not being shipped to the U.S. were in fact shipped to Europe, and Europe has seen a glut of solar panels and reduced prices as a result of this. And in fact, now China is threatening, because of these increased sanctions against them, to begin limiting PV exports to the United States, sort of a similar scenario as we've seen with Russia, with natural gas in Europe, which is leading a lot of activity towards moving the supply chain domestically in the US. And in the world of innovation in solar, we're seeing that in Indianapolis, a Singapore-based company, an example of moving production to the US, called Bila Solar, is looking to produce frameless and glassless solar panels at a plant in Indianapolis, Indiana, that they're opening up. They're anticipating this will create about 250 jobs in that city. And will be in operation by mid-2024. Now, this particular panel, it weighs about 70% less than traditional solar panels. It's flexible. It is about 95% thinner than traditional solar panels, although it retains a lot of the efficiency, about 19% efficient versus 23-24% from traditional panels, and does have a 25-year warranty. So this addresses a lot of the balance of systems issues with solar panels. And that's the news from the solar industry for this week. We'll see you next week.